to you by Chase. Well, if you're not awake already, this question is going to wake you up. Is James Harden better than Michael Jordan? Here's what Rockets GM Daryl Morey had to say on the 100 Thieves podcast this week. It's just factual that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan. You give James Harden the ball, and before you're giving up the ball, how many points do you generate? Which is how you should measure offense. James Harden is by far number one in NBA history. Guys, what's your reaction to this?
I mean, I wish I had a friend like that, I guess. Like, I feel like Morey loves James Harden more than my kids love me, and that's incredible. So, like, I emailed our stats and information people and was like, please, Daryl Morey is a smart guy, statistically driven. Please send me some stats to make this make sense. I still haven't gotten a response. Well, I don't think that it's possible to make this make sense.
Oh, you know, I know. Look, this is first take, right? So normally what happens is Dominique's over here playing offense, and then all of a sudden I'm D'ing him up, right? I'm on the other side of shadowing. But you're about to watch an alley-oop because we're about to dunk all over Daryl Morey together. This is going to be me lob it up, you throw it down. I will say this: the stats you're probably looking for. I think what Daryl Morey is relying on, Dominique, is essentially effective field goal percentage. I mean, James Harden does not get credit for how efficient he is. He really is. We think of him as a volume scorer. He's incredibly efficient. However, the idea that he's a better scorer than Michael Jordan is absolutely absurd. You just got on me about context, right? How about this context? Right. Michael Jordan played in the 90s and the 80s. The scoring in the NBA was in the 90s, and now it's average points per game is for offense is 111. And what more than that, the lack of the hand check, the physicality. Michael Jordan could shoot the three, he could shoot the two, he could get to the basket, he could do everything that James Harden did in an era when it was harder.
Right. And I think part of being a great scorer is not just necessarily how many points you score, but how versatile you are, which is why maybe I would entertain throwing Kevin Durant in this conversation, but not James Harden. James Harden is phenomenal as far as shooting threes and getting to the basket. I'm not sure that he has the plethora of moves, though he has some really interesting moves that some might argue are travels, and he draws fouls in ways that people don't like. I don't think that anyone could arguably say that he has the versatility on the offensive end of the court as Michael Jordan. And certainly if we go the old-fashioned way, it's just Jordan's just a better basketball player.
In those times, Jordan put up, he had a higher points per game season in 87 than James Harden has ever had. He shot 42% from three a decade later. And by the way, back in those days, they only took like 13 threes a game, 16 threes a game. Now, last season, they took 32 threes a game. It's different. And boy, Michael Jordan would have lit up the modern NBA.
Amen. Michael Jordan, definitely the GOAT here. Well, let's talk about Carmelo Anthony. He might just get the shot that he was looking for, according to SNY's Ian Begley and Antonio Pucci. Carmelo Anthony has been taking part in informal team workouts and scrimmages in L.A. with the Nets players. Gentlemen, you like the idea of Carmelo on the Nets?
I do. I do.
Go ahead then, Will. Please, tell me why.
Okay, here's why, right? What is this year's Nets going to be? It's going to be like it's a parenthetical, man. It doesn't count. It's not who they are. Without KD, this one is just an experiment. And the truth is, this team is incredibly deep. I mean, this team is 10 deep, right? You put Carmelo in there, and do you know what I think he becomes? He becomes like a zombie KD. It's like a guy they have to develop around, just not as much as KD. What I'm saying is, if everybody steps up on the roster this year and then has to take a step back next year, Dominique, you know who just did that? The Celtics.
Right.
The Celtics just did that. They accomplished, Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie. All those young guys stepped up into big roles, and it was hard for them to step back in the next year when Kyrie was present. I'm just saying Carmelo becomes sort of the placeholder for KD.
I think that's an argument for it. That's an interesting argument, that and maybe Carmelo saves on moving costs because he's already in New York. But I don't think that the zombie KD idea works because Carmelo Anthony's not KD. And I think that this doesn't match for Brooklyn or for Carmelo Anthony, because you said they have a deep team with a lot of young guys who can play. We want to get those young guys out there and play, and Carmelo is not a guy who wants to go into that situation. I do think Carmelo still has value. I'm surprised that people are treating him like he doesn't. I think he has value, and I like him on another roster where he can be a closer, which is what he does best. And I think the 76ers, having lost Butler, could use somebody like that in those situations. We both agree that the Brooklyn Nets are not championship contenders this year, so I'm not sure why Carmelo Anthony would want to be on that roster just so he can have one more year to kind of have this farewell tour.
We agree Carmelo has value as well. When last suited up for the Thunder, what was it? It was he shot 35% from three or something like that, 16 points a game. The question is he willing to accept a role that he never accepted his entire career? Again, not unlike the Boogie Cousins conversation we had earlier, don't you think he's been dealt a little bit of a dose of humility over the last year or two? And look, I love the Nets roster. I really do. I don't know they need Carmelo. They don't need Carmelo.
Right.
Those young guys are going to develop. I just think the value to the Nets becomes the KD placeholder. Please don't mistake that as me saying he's KD. He's nowhere near.
But the problem is you said that he should accept a different role, but you're also saying he should be a KD zombie.
No, to be clear,
a KD
I don't
zombie
mean come
is
in
not
and shoot it like
accepting
KD.
a smaller role.
I don't mean come in and shoot it up like KD.
All right, well, we began the show today asking you guys who is the more intriguing quarterback. Is it Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray? Let's see, we had Will taking Kyler Murray. Dominique, you said Lamar Jackson.